It says, now imagine, right, we have three parts to the human mind, right? The first part of this he calls, right, the beast or the hydra, right? It's like a hydra in the myths was a nine-headed beast, right? Would lash out with these various heads, all very hungry, right, without thinking, right? If we think about our appetites, desire for things, self-interested drives, things like food, sex, sleep, right? This represents by Plato the hydra. These are bodily needs, right? They're neither good nor bad, but they're certainly things that you don't want to be in control, right? Because they have this underbelly to them. They're the aspects of the reptile. The beast, right? The lion then for Plato represents what he calls our spirit, our emotion. These are drives relating to ourselves and others, right? Things like joy, love, right? Jealousy, right? Anger, right? Hate, right? Things that you're directed towards others, right? So these kind of emotional states, Plato represents by the lion, which is the king of the beasts, noble animal, this kind of association. So these are good things, but once again, if we would be more than animals, right, we can't be driven, right, by having the animal, right, or the lion, sorry, lead the mammal, not a reptile, the mammal, right, or the reptile, right, be in charge of our decision making inside of our minds. And the last part Plato describes as our reason. So we have the appetites, the emotions, or spirit, and reason. The reason represents by human, right, their ability to identify and solve problems, our ability to think. And for Plato, if we allow our self-interest to take over, right, short-sighted self-interest, that kind of stuff, to take over, we'll start feeding things like the lion and the hydra, right, to the point where they become so large inside our heads, right? Imagine blow our heads up large and these things are inside the head. So the hydra becomes gigantic and the lion and the human are small in comparison. The hydra now leads us around. This is the drug addict, this is the alcoholic, this is the miserable creatures of the planet who have been, right, enslaved by their appetites, right? And you can see the same kind of difficulties, right, with having your emotions, right, take over. Well, you may not be as despicable, right, and undesirable as somebody who is addicted to, right, heroin or something like that, and unfortunate as it may be, right, you can also get addicted to things like fame, right, honor, right, a desire for conquest, right, Alexander, right, Caesar are undone ultimately, right, shall we say, by their emotions, if Plato was to do the analysis, right. Caesar wanted to be imperator, wanted the fame and honor of it. Well, he got daggers in the back for it, right. Alexander got poisoned by who? His own men, somebody else, but he wanted to be king of the world, right. So these things get out of control, and you can see it among, right, our Hollywood elites, right. They sometimes, right, behave in all kinds of fashions, right. Well, designed to put them back on top of the, right, newspaper stack, right, or the old newspapers are old thing on top of the Twitter feed, right, but that doesn't necessarily, right, mean it's a justifiable or wise behavior. So for Plato, right, it's more than the reasons for behavior are not simply self-interested. If we would be, right, shall we say, the best we can be, then we need to control these baser elements, right? So it's kind of an argument for drawing out the best of what humanity is, fulfilling our potentials, than is an argument for just pure self-interest in terms of titillation of the senses or the emotions. Okay. Right, let's talk about public versus private conceptions of truth. Right, now in philosophy, right, we use a public conception of truth, and the idea here is that everybody, if they want to, can have a chance to see the reasoning, right, the conclusions for themselves. Right, in a private conception of truth, something much like you see in religions very often, right, when Moses goes up the mountain in Mount Sinai and he talks to God, he brings the Ten Commandments back down and he shows them to everyone. Well, you don't get a chance to see the process for yourself. You have to take Moses' word that he spoke to God, right, and he wasn't confused about that matter. So that's a private conception of truth. There's nothing wrong with them, right? If that's what you think happened, then it may well be what happened, right? That's not what we're talking about in philosophy. It's just that we need to be able to see things for ourselves. So we can take the Ten Commandments and then, shall we say, justify them, shall we say, through a public conception of truth. So we take a look at the thou shalt not kill, right? Right. So that's pretty easy, right, to see, okay, why should we have this rule? God says we should have this rule. Private conception. Public conception. Well, you'll find that if you allow people to go around murdering each other, you get these things called blood feuds, right? And this is what happens with the Hatfield-McCoys, a very famous blood feud, I think on the Kentucky-West Virginia borders, right after the Civil War, right? And these things can go on for years. years, sometimes decades, sometimes even longer, with people and relatives killing each other back and forth. So murder begets murder, which begets murder, which begets murder. So the way we stop that is by not allowing murder. If we do have murder, we have courts of justice that bring it to an end, right? So, but these courts of justice, once again, everybody gets to see who's guilty and why not guilty if they're ideally conceived, right? So private conceptions of truth, while the mystics use these, and maybe fully legitimate methods, right, of understanding things, they're not used in philosophy, right? In philosophy, you need to explain, give evidence, give reasons, give your justifications, your warrants for thinking something to be accurate, something to be inaccurate, right? Simply saying, God told me last night, and it's true, it may be accurate, but it's not something anybody else can check the homework on and be as convinced as you are. So it's philosophy, right, like science, becomes very powerful insofar as other people can see and critique and take a look at the stuff, as opposed to private conceptions, which don't allow, right, for that option of taking a look at something, right, each of us taking a look at something, right, for ourselves, which is really the standard you want to use in trying to come at these matters. If you want to do public policy and political philosophy and stuff like that, is you need to have a chance to take a look at what other people are thinking and seeing about the matter.